Hey, friends, welcome to the Present Solution Podcast, where together we work as parents in order to tackle the challenges that our teens are facing and that we have in relationships with our kids. And we find real solutions to real problems so we can maximize our time with our teens while we still have them at home, growing them into the people that we love, trust, and respect and want to hang out with one day. So today, the conversation is going to be around the rite of passage trip. Now, I did this for my son when he was 13, and I ended up putting this up on a post on Instagram, and I was blown away at the kind of response that I got and the kind of questions that I got. I realized how important and impactful this trip is. Now, for me, at 13, what I recognize my son is progressing into a state where he has to accept more responsibility. And historically, throughout all kinds of cultures, the rite of passage around 13 for young men, that's an important marker in a young man's life where they move from being a child into a teenager on their way to adulthood. And it's one of those things where it's a really memorable moment, but there's some opportunities to teach some important things at 13. And by doing this rite of passage trip, it helps your teen understand that, hey, this is a really special moment in my life that we're moving forward in a powerful way. And so today, what we're going to do on the show is walk through what that rite of passage trip looks like, some of the things that I do, and some of the things that you can do to consider. And I'm even going to throw out some ideas on what you can do that are either no budget or low budget, or you can get really creative. If you've got plenty to spend or you've saved up all kinds of miles on credit cards and points, there's lots and lots that you can do. But it's not so much important where you go as much as what you accomplish and the kind of trusted connection you build on that trip. Let's take a look at what does it look like to have a 13-year-old rite of passage trip. Now, this is really important for a parent to do with their 13-year-old. So it could be a father and a son or a father and a daughter. It could be a mother and a son or a mother and daughter. Every family is so unique and so different. My recommendation is if you're a married family and you've got a son and a daughter, then dad, take your son, mom, take your daughter. But if you're a single parent and you have a son or a daughter, then take them at 13. Okay. Don't think, oh, well, I need to find someone else to do this, that for their age. You take them at this age and create this connection, this moment, and then just kind of follow the pattern and understand what's going on in their life at 13 and understanding what you're going to accomplish in terms of connection and the kind of character that you're developing in them. This is where you begin to lay the mantle of responsibility in their life and the way that they get to participate in home. So let's talk about why it's important to take an adventure with your teen, what's going on, and how to do that. So the first thing to understand is just the biology of it, appreciating their development, and just understanding that at 13, their brain is in a deconstruction and reconstruction mode. Everything's on the table for them. So, 0 to 11, very concrete thinking, nurture-based parenting. What you said, they pretty much accepted carte blanche because you're an adult, you're a parent, you're kind of bigger than life. They don't really know anything else. And, what you say goes. And the reality is that parenting at that stage, maybe it's healthy intimidation, but they just have more trust for you at a younger age. They're going to do what you say. And so that's kind of childhood. And then they hit this puberty. And right now, we're talking between 11, 12, and 13 is when kids are starting to enter puberty. So if you have a 12-year-old, by all means, you have a teenager because they're entering adolescence earlier and they're leaving it later. And so the brain is transforming and changing the way that it interprets information, the way that it processes emotions, specifically that prefrontal cortex, the front of the brain, the consequential type thinking. That's the last thing to develop, but the amygdala and the emotional centers of the brain, that's changing and transforming. Your teens are beginning to experience new emotions and at greater levels of intensity, and they don't really know how to manage that. So you're going to experience some mood dysregulation, some emotional dysregulation. You're going to experience them not being able to communicate what it is that they're feeling. And so this trip at 13 is really important because they're right at the beginning of that, and you can create some communication, some connection, and some understanding for them so that when you're back home and over the next couple of years, you guys can continue to work together. But teens they're starting to question their place in the world and where do they fit in? Because the process of individuation is three things. It's who am I, where do I belong, and do my decisions matter? And so already at 12, they are starting to think about that. So we want to answer those questions on this trip. We're going to answer the questions of who am I? This is where a process of I teach our parents to hold the crown. In other words, to speak to your teen's highest potential. Who is it that you see them becoming? That's the language you want to use consistently and regularly with them so that you can continue to guide them in that direction. Because the way that we talk about our teens, the way we think about our teens, the way we treat our teens is the way they will develop. So we want to hold their highest potential at the front and remind them of who they are and help them know that they are a critical and important part of our family. Okay. They're seeking independence, but they are still craving guidance. Okay. They have to separate from us. And this is the toughest part of our life as parents because it's the fleeing of the nest. It's them standing on their own 2 feet. It's them going and spending more time with their friends or more time at school or in sports or activities. It's the emotional distance that begins to happen. Now, there's a natural amount of that that's just for now. It's not forever. Okay. And when we embrace it, when we understand it, when we work with it, we can actually create closeness in the relationship with our teen that will last a lifetime. But if we fight against it and we take it personally and we don't know how to manage our own feelings of loss or grief or the transformation that's happening in our teens, then we really can create some unnecessary distance. And so this trip is really important to begin to create closeness while encouraging them to take that independence while they see you as a wise guide, that constant and steady influence in their life that they can come to when they're ready to seek advice. And this trip begins to establish that new relationship while forming their identity. And you talk about your family values. What does it mean to be in your family? Who are you and who is it that you see them becoming? What's the importance of values and how does that inform their standards, which are the behaviors of those values? And what kind of boundaries do they need to develop in their own life? And are you communicating the boundaries that you have for them now that they're becoming a teenager? And then you begin to talk about the expectations that you have now from 13 to 23 as they transition from middle school to high school to college age, okay, and then into adulthood. So you talk about all of this in really meaningful ways on this trip. This trip gives you the vehicle to have these conversations side by side with the right kind of posture where your teens can open up. You're not lecturing, but you're having conversation, okay? It's a clear marker of trust and responsibility in a transition from childhood to adulthood. So with my kids, I recall this trip all the time. On this trip, I teach the trust triangle. I'll talk about it in a minute. But this is where I teach them what it means to be a trustworthy person and how to build trust. And so when we're back home years later from this trip, I still go back and say, do you remember when we talked about the trust triangle? Or I'll say, look, I know that you're a trustworthy person. So behaving in this way seems really out of character for you. Or we'll have conversations if they're dealing with a difficult relationship. Well, what is it about this relationship that you don't trust? And we go back to conversations we had on this trip when they were 13. Okay. So this is a really important marker for them in their life. And it helps answer their unspoken question of, am I ready for this next phase of life? Am I ready to grow and become more mature? And the answer is yes, of course. And this trip helps solidify that for them. Now, the idea of taking an adventure, so going and doing something out of the normal, whether it's out in nature or exploring a new area, the idea is that it's a new experience that you have with them. So you create new memorable moments through recreation. This challenges some of their comfort level by having them participate in the preparation of the trip, whether that's getting the groceries or renting the motorhome or finding the location or setting the itinerary. All of that is going to help them build confidence as they begin to use some skills and they have buy-in and ownership in the trip and in the adventure in and of itself. The reality is that the one-on-one time that you're going to get both in planning and preparing for the trip and taking the trip and coming home from the trip, that is invaluable time to have conversations, to be able to talk openly and freely while doing other kinds of activities. This adventure and this new experience out of the normal, away from electronic distractions, away from the distractions of normal life, where you can't just jump into going and doing something, but you are with your teens specifically. This is what creates a lot of the really meaningful moments and adventure that brings you guys closer together. And some of the shared challenges you might face, whether you go on a hike, if you do a scavenger hunt, if you do a fishing trip, if you're doing some sort of tour, any of those things, any of the challenges you guys face together allow you guys to work together and problem solve and team build. And that creates all kinds of trust inside the relationship. And the reality is that this adventure is going to create a safe space for deep conversations that are going to teach your teens that they're capable of handling life's unknowns. Okay? This is where you get to talk to them about some of the things that are coming in middle school, or some of the things coming in high school, or some of the things coming in college. And you can share your experiences that you remember when you were a teen. Okay? And some of the things that you went through and you face, you get to share with them and kind of guide them through what's coming. And also begin to ask questions about what is it they're looking forward to? What is it that they might be nervous about? What is it that they wonder about? What are you curious about in middle school or curious about in high school? Or what do you wonder about in going into college and those sorts of things? This gives you the opportunity to have those conversations. Now, as you move through this adventure trip, now I recommend a 3-day trip. I really like leaving on a Friday morning. It's kind of your travel day, settling in, and then have a full day Saturday of adventure. And then Sunday is wrapping everything up. And then, of course, coming home. And during this trip, you want to plan some meaningful conversations, whether it's around a campfire, it could be on a hike, over breakfast, any of those things. But one of the most important conversations that you have to have on this trip is about trust. And the trust conversation is pretty simple. Okay, it's just 3 things, and you can apply it and how it makes sense for your family. But the trust conversation is both about teaching them who to trust in their life, how to be a trustworthy person, and how to earn trust from you so that they can have more independence in their life through high school and through college. Okay, so it covers all these different areas, and it gives you a really great tool for conversation in your relationship with them and as you're helping guide them in their relationship with others. So here's the foundation of the trust triangle. It's super simple. It's honesty. Okay, the first component, there's 3. The first component is honesty, and it's more than just telling the truth. Honesty is about being open. Am I sharing with you everything about who I am? Being dishonest or inauthentic would be hiding something. Okay. And so honesty is telling the truth, and it's telling the kind truth, but it's also being open and not hiding anything and allowing your family to know who you really are and what's going on in your life. Right. So when I know that you're being honest and I feel that you're being honest and I can know the real you and I see the real you and I don't feel like you're hiding anything, I can trust you. Okay. Makes sense. The next one is empathy or care. Okay. And this one is really about believing and knowing that your teen cares about your family and cares about you as a parent, cares about peace in your home. If I know that you care and I see you behaving in a way that you care, then it's easy for me to trust you. But if I feel like you don't care about me as a parent, if I feel like you don't care about your grades, if I feel like you don't care about our home, if you don't care about your siblings, you don't care about peace in our home, if I feel like you just don't really care, it's really difficult to trust you in a relationship. Okay. And so care is really important. And the thing that you want to teach your teen, especially as they're starting to choose people that they have romantic relationships with and long-term choose a spouse, is does the person that they're going to trust with their life care about them and their family? And you know that based on their behaviors and the experience and the energy you get from that person. And so if you have the hesitation or the question, like, I just don't think that they really care. I think they're more concerned about themselves than they are anyone else. And they don't really care about how their behavior or decisions impact it. That's a red flag. That person is not trustworthy. And so we want to teach our kids how to have trust in other people as well and help them understand that, hey, here's one of the reasons I don't know if I trust you to go out this weekend is, lately I felt like you just haven't cared to engage with the family. You haven't cared about what's going on around the home or any of those kinds of things. But empathy and care is a critical component of trusting someone. Finally, it's good judgment. Are they displaying good judgment? And good judgment, simply put, is 3 things. It's the ability to observe and see, to determine, okay, to question things and think around something, and then to take action. Okay, so it's see, determine, do. Okay, you don't have to dive into it that much, but you can help your kids understand that good judgment is about observation. It's emotional and rational data. How does this thing make me feel? I'm following my instincts and gut. And also, what do I know about the situation? Am I a learner? Do I have facts, data, and experience to back up the decision that I'm making? And so, am I a good observer? Am I asking the right questions? Am I seeing things? Am I listening well? And then am I determining? So am I seeking wise advice? Am I looking into the data and the facts? Am I taking my time with the decision I need to make? And then can I make a good decision long term? So good judgment, obviously, very critical in trusting your kids. And so if you see them not making good decisions around their homework, time management, task management, personal responsibilities, participation at home, with the things that they're doing at school, if you see them not making, you have to raise their awareness of the fact, listen, I really want to trust you. And I know that you really care about being trusted, but I'm having a hard time trusting you because I just don't see you making very good decisions. Help me understand what's going on here that you decided to do this when clearly that wasn't a great decision. That's how you use the trust triangle in conversation later. But that trust conversation happens on this trip at 13, when you begin to say, now that you're becoming a teenager, trust is going to look different in our relationship. And you can lay some things out like, you're going to want to drive. You're going to want a later bedtime. You're going to want to spend the night at your friend's house. You're going to, like, there's so many things that you're going to want to do. And I want to allow you to do those things. But in order for you to do those things, I have to be able to trust you. Let me show you how you can earn trust and how you can grow as a trustworthy person. Now, for me, I love camping. We went dirt bike riding. We had campfires. And so I draw a triangle in the dirt around the campfire. I place 3 rocks at each point. And for every time I place a rock, I talk about one component of trust. That's what I did with my son. And we come back to this conversation all the time. So however you have the trust conversation, you just need to talk about the value of being honest, being empathetic and caring, and then having good judgment. If you do all 3 of those things, you can have trust in the relationship. But when one of those is missing, there's a trust wobble. If 2 of those are missing, you're certainly not going to be able to trust them. If all 3, there's just no trust. If all 3 are missing, there is no trust. But now you can have a conversation with your teens about how to build trust. And at 13, this is a great time to have the conversation. Another conversation to have on this trip is to talk about values, standards, boundaries, and expectations. So the 4 walls of relationships that all of us have to build and you need to have in your family, but that your teen needs to begin to develop for themselves. So their values are the values that they want to have in their life that they really care about. What are meaningful values for them? And their standards are going to be the behaviors of those values, how they're going to choose to behave. And having standards allows them to filter who they are going to let have priority in their life in terms of relationships. And then their boundaries are the limits at which those standards expire. And so if I have the value of being honest, my standard is I tell the truth and I don't manipulate. A boundary is if I'm in a relationship with somebody and I know that they're not telling the truth or I feel like they're hiding, my boundary is, hey, listen, I love you and I care about you, but I won't participate in this relationship if you can't tell me the truth. I have a boundary, and that boundary is honesty. And so if you want to be honest and open with me, great, we can move forward. But if you choose not to be honest or open, then I can't continue to be in a relationship with you in this way. And that's how you hold a boundary. And if you're in a meaningful relationship with somebody, or even as a parent, the expectation with your kids as you collaborate is, okay, guys, as my son, my expectation is that when I ask you a question, you would tell me the truth and you would do it without hiding anything. And they can understand that, and that's pretty clear. But then I would invite them to say, what's the expectation you have with me as it relates to being honest with you? What is it that you want from mom, or what is it that you want from dad? And so expectations need to be collaborative. We both need to be on the same page and express what we expect. What is it they expect from us as their parents, and what do we expect from them as our teens? Okay, that's where expectations become collaborative. And then they're not burdensome, they're not overwhelming, they're not unreachable. They're actually mutually decided on because as a family, we know where we're going, and that's a good place. Okay, so values, standards, boundaries, and expectations. And on this trip, on this 13-year-old trip, this rite of passage trip, we're not figuring all that out at once. We're just saying, hey, over the next year, I really want to work on this, but I'm just curious, what are some of your values? Now, your 13-year-old or 14-year-old is going to be like, what's a value? Well, what you want to explain is a value is what you really care about as a person and who you want to be. So when other people talk about you and you're not around, what do you want them to say about you? Okay. And that's a little bit easier to understand because they might say, well, I want people to say, I guarantee you're going to get funny. Every teenager wants to be funny. And you could say funny is great, but that's not necessarily a value. How about, honesty or integrity, hard work, kind, generous, those kinds of things. Okay. So help guide and steer them and say, how do you want to be known by your friends, by your teachers, by us? Okay. You start the conversation now, and then this gives you lots of opportunities to connect and communicate over the next year. And again, here's why this trip matters. It's not about laying out rules. It's not about telling them and laying on heavy expectations. It's about trust. This is about you showing them how to build trust with you inside the family and showing them what trust looks like and helping them understand that they have a responsibility towards maturity now. Okay. And this is a defining marker. You're showing them that you trust in their growing independence and you believe in them and you're speaking to their highest potential. You're showing how you're really excited for them and the new stage of life that they're stepping into. You're giving them tools to navigate life's challenges. Okay. You're helping them see what it means to have good judgment, how to be a trustworthy person, how to live a life of values, how to have standards and boundaries. Because the reality is in life, You will not get what you deserve. You get what you tolerate. And in their relationships, they need to understand that coming from you towards them is you're not going to tolerate poor behavior. Okay? You guys have boundaries as a family. And this is going to help them grow confident and grow their self-esteem so that one day when they have to make a meaningful choice about a relationship, they will have standards and boundaries. And you don't have to worry about them being manipulated or coerced or getting into a toxic relationship that's unhealthy for them, but that they have standards and boundaries, not only in relationships, but in their work and with their life and with their morals. Okay? And this trip, you are establishing a bond and you are communicating, I am here for you no matter what. And you're showing them that you're safe, non-judgmental, non-anxious, and you're open and you're ready and willing to be there for them as you say, hey, it's your turn now. You're ready to go. I'm going to be right here with you. I'm going to be running alongside you, but it's your turn to step up and take on responsibility in your life. And I'm really proud of the way that you're doing that. Okay. Now, on this trip, a lot of cool things can happen. I recommend that you allow them to participate in the planning, find the place, set the budget, go shopping if you're going camping, all those sorts of things. Let them help you pack. All the variety of things, like so much of the trip is even just teaching them how to get ready for a trip or how to get ready for something like this. For me, it was my son helped create the grocery list. He actually did the shopping. He paid with his Greenlight card. If you're not familiar with Greenlight, I can tell you more about it. It's a really great tool to accelerate your teen's maturity. He did a lot of the cooking. We did a lot of the cleaning together. He helped set the tone for the trip. Okay? And it elevated his confidence. It boosted his self-esteem to actually experience the responsibility that I was telling him that he had. And I do believe that adventure is the key. So I encourage you, make the trip adventurous, make it exciting. Okay? Find a way to do that, whatever that might be. It could be exploring a new city. It could be going camping and backpacking and tenting. It could be RVing. It could be getting a small VRBO. It could be staying at a campsite that has stationary trailers. It could be staying in a hotel or a motel. It could be a road trip. There's so many things that you can go and do. It really won't cost you very much. You can find really affordable accommodations. And hearing this now, you might just need to start to put a budget together so that you can pull this off by the time they're 13. Or if they're already past 13, do it at 14, do it at 15, 16. If you haven't done it, do it now. Okay, get it done with your kids before they move on and out of the house, because these new experiences are going to build lasting bonds. That's why the adventure is important. Go do something that maybe neither one of you have done before. So it could be whitewater rafting. It could be motorcycle riding. There's a lot of places that you can, around the country, you can rent motorcycles for off-roading, quads or off-road cars if you're into that. You can take city tours or visit a new city. Gosh, you guys could do a cruise. You could do a weekend cruise. Some of those are really inexpensive and affordable, and find an excursion off of that cruise that you can go and do. But look for something adventurous, build a budget, save up for it. If you need to, work a little extra, do kind of jobs or sell some things around the house to put some money into this trip. It matters. And I can promise you this, now that you know this, if you don't do it, you will regret it later on in life. So go get it done. Be resourceful, find a way to make it happen. Go have fun, okay? Go enjoy time with your teen, okay? Hey, if you've got any more questions, please feel free to reach out. You can catch us at hello@presentsolutionforparents.com. I certainly encourage you to listen to some of the other podcasts that we have and follow us on Instagram so you can get more tips on and advice on how to connect with your teen. But this 13-year-old rite of passage, there's a reason this has been done in cultures around the world, probably since the beginning of time. It's an important marker in your teen's life, and it's something you will not regret doing. So I encourage you, go and do it, my friends. Okay, it's been great to be with you today. Would love to connect with you in meaningful ways. If you want to check out my masterclass on how to become a pace-setting parent and connect with your teens in more meaningful ways, you can go to presentsolutionforparents.com and check it out there. And I will see you in the next episode.